What's up, everybody? This is Jeremy from freeoldtestamentaudio.com. Thank you for watching this video entitled Samson Blinded for a Reason. Recently on my website I wrote about a book by Thomas Foster entitled How to Read Literature Like a Professor. And in that book, Foster has a chapter on blindness. And that chapter is entitled He's Blind for a Reason, you know. And in this chapter, Foster discusses the fact that in a story, oftentimes blindness is symbolic of something, that a person who is blind may metaphorically or figuratively see better than those who have their sight, or that it's only when someone is blinded that they're finally able to see. Now, this is a literary motif that we see play out in the life of Samson. It is only when Samson is blinded that he truly sees. And you can see this throughout Samson's life, that he is very imperceptive, but it's only at the end when he's captured by the Philistines and his eyes are gouged out that he figuratively is able to see. And we see that at the end of Judges chapter 16, and I've included that text. It says, "When Delilah realized that he had told her his whole secret, she sent and called the lords of the Philistines, saying, 'This time come up, for he has told his whole secret to me.' Then the lords of the Philistines came up to her and brought the money in their hands. She let him fall asleep on her lap, and she called a man, and had him shave off the 7 locks of his head. He began to weaken, and his strength left him. Then she said, 'The Philistines are upon you, Samson.' When he awoke from his sleep, he thought, 'I will go out as at other times, and shake myself free.' But he did not know that the Lord had left him. So the Philistines seized him and gouged out his eyes. They brought him down to Gaza, and bound him with bronze shackles. He ground at the mill in the prison. But the hair of his head began to grow again after it had been shaved. Now the lords of the Philistines gathered to offer a great sacrifice to their god Dagon, and to rejoice, for they said, 'Our God has given Samson our enemy into our hand.' When the people saw him, they praised their God, for they said, 'Our God has given our enemy into our hand, the ravager of our country, who has killed many of us.' And when their hearts were merry, they said, 'Call Samson, and let him entertain us.' So they called Samson out of the prison, and he performed for them. They made him stand between the pillars, and Samson said to the attendant who held him by the hand, 'Let me feel the pillars on which the house rests, so that I may lean against them.' Now the house was full of men and women, all the lords of the Philistines were there, and on the roof there were about 3,000 men and women, who looked on while Samson performed. Then Samson called to the Lord and said, 'Lord God, remember me and strengthen me only this once, O God, so that with this one act of revenge I may pay back the Philistines for my 2 eyes.' And Samson grasped the 2 middle pillars on which the house rested, and he leaned his weight against them, his right hand on the one and his left hand on the other. Then Samson said, 'Let me die with the Philistines.' He strained with all his might, and the house fell on the lords and all the people who were in it. So those he killed at his death were more than those he had killed during his life. Then his brothers and all his family came down and took him and brought him up and buried him between Zorah and Eshtaol in the tomb of his father Manoah. He had judged Israel 20 years. So it's only when Samson is blinded that he finally begins to pray there in verse 28, 'Lord God, remember me and strengthen me only this once.' If you'd like to learn more about the Old Testament, be sure to visit freeoldtestamentaudio.com.